Today we are tinkering with the B case. You might notice that Bitbox is gone, as I mentioned in a couple videos ago, and there's still some more things to change here. Some stuff is kind of in a placeholder position right now. I am currently kind of pausing on the attempt to make this in synced alive looper, and instead shifting the priority to a different place of adding variety and complexity to the sound that this case creates. And I've talked about this probably in my very first, I think, video where I actually spoke on this channel about my A case, where I like to do most of the muting very upstream for different parts. And I was talking that within regard to the A case, and where I had a jumble henge mixer set up at the time, which I still have over there, but that's kind of my only mixer. And instead of needing mutes on a mixer or something like that, I would control the signal flow way further upstream to let things ring out, let things have longer tails, and use filters and other ways to pull back a signal. In the B case, it's been a pretty similar approach so far. The drum sequencer's mute page is where my hand usually stays. Once I have a pattern going, I'm kind of like bringing things in and out here. I am then doing most of the transforming of the pattern after the LXR. So if you haven't seen this case before, I run mid-side dual 100 grits, and before even that, I put the mix through Data Bender. So there's a drum sequencer playing the LXR, getting mixed together, then going through Data Bender 100 grit, mixed back together, and kind of out. One of the things at KnobCon that I think I was most intrigued by wasn't anything new. It was just a conversation I had with Eli of, I think it's Mystic Circuits, whoever makes the IDEM. And we were going through the different capabilities of IDEM and just kind of chatting about it for a little bit. And one, they're extremely hard to find. And two, I think it's an impressive module that's got a lot of deep modes and things that you can do with gates. It made me a little concerned it might make me feel kind of grids-like, in that it might do too much of the work for me where it doesn't really feel like it's mine anymore. But the idea that came out of that conversation was, wow, instead of just looping things that I'm doing with this B case and then making a new thing, I'm really missing out on a step between my drum sequencer and the actual drum voices to manipulate what's coming out of here before I actually even trigger anything. Moving that manipulation of the sound further upstream. Instead of trying to just capture, loop, do new thing, what if I bail on that and instead focus on bringing almost an entire new avenue of modulation, which is like pattern modulation, via some gate manipulation. The solution that I have decided to try out, literally haven't patched it yet, is a sequential switch, the Vice Virga. So normally I play the drum sequencer's first 8 channels as the 7 ins for the LXR, and then when I had an oscillator in here, I had Polygogo in here originally. The 8th was the kind of triggers for the envelope for Polygogo. That lines up nicely with kind of the 8 ins here and 8 outs. So my idea is to take all of the triggers that I would normally come out of the drum sequencer, bring them up through Vice Virga, bring those back out into the LXR, and then have other triggers on the drum sequencer clock either modulation of the offset or trigger the advance, so that I can easily return to kind of like a home base version of the pattern, but also pull it in maybe 2 different ways, like clock through by shifting those triggers so that the trigger that was playing the kick is now on the snare, and the hi-hat's now on the clap. So the thing that gets me kind of excited about this is one of the things I really like Zadar for, which is the more like noisy and chaotic shapes, where it's not just a traditional smooth ADSR, but in the middle there's some like crunch. and with, I believe, the Vice Virga, an offset CV, which this is like kind of controlling the amount of shift across the different 8 possible selections. This, I think, might result in a kind of smooth shift followed by some kind of chaotic, all over the place things, and then back to smooth. And if I clock that modulation, that might result in a really nice thing to do, at a slower cadence. So I could imagine that clocked envelope being every 32 steps or 64 steps or something like that, resulting in a bigger pattern, which at the end of the day is still being driven by like a 16 step. So this is a lot of preamble. I'm just going to patch and see what we figure out over the course of this video, see if I run out of cables, and we'll just go from there. So first we're going to take the first 8 channels out of the drum sequencer like I was talking about. Now this thing has different modes, whether you want it to treat all 8 as a single group, or 2 groups of 4, or kind of every other, swapping them. I'm going to start with just 8, but there might be some potential of those other modes. But we'll just run with that for now. I'm actually not even sure where I'm going to put channel 8. Maybe that'll be actually the modulation trigger, and we will mess with what is triggering this in the first place. All right, drum 1. I might speed all this up in post, because this is going to be a long, boring video otherwise. I also think maybe just for the sake of getting this started, I'm not going to do the whole effects chain and mixing chain. Maybe I'll do a simpler mix. All right, there's 7, and then let's actually take the last one and use it to trigger this. We'll go back to channel A. We'll kind of stretch this way out. Yeah, that'll be good. All right. Maybe we'll just start with kick, and then let's take the output of this envelope and patch it into offset. Oh, I'm going to need to advance it at some point, right? So that's not going to make a ton of sense. Let's advance this with trigger. Let's advance this with trigger 9 for right now. There it goes. All right, what's on trigger 9? 4 on the floor. Is that making sense? We are moving forward. Behavior sequential. There we go. Yeah, there's also the switch here that lets you map multiple trigger values in to multiple out. I'm going to just start with sequential, and we'll go with that. All right, now I need to be able to hear something. I think for the sake of this, how should I patch this up? Decisions I should have made before I started recording. Let's go. I believe I like to do kick on 2, because I don't need to pan it. 3 and 4 on the outer ones. And then I want to take this out, and if I can actually get it to stretch across my cases, no, I can't. So I'm gonna do something kind of silly and use the Zagger Zeb as a bit of a mult. So we'll just open that all the way up and then, I guess not a mult, but a extension cord. All right, now okay. Now what's going to happen here is the 4 on the floor is the only actual trigger that's coming out. We're actually having everything muted except channel 1, which traditionally would go into drum 1. Except I am also triggering, let's see, maybe we'll do this slower, every 16 steps in advance of that. So every 16 steps, where that 4 on the floor goes, which sound comes out of the LXR, should change. Starting with, I wonder if as soon as I push this, it might move to the second one. Let's see. Of course, it's not even a 4 on the floor. There we go. There's that empty one. It's interesting already that the trigger that's advancing the gate, or what's interesting already is that the trigger that is advancing the different steps of the switch is happening at the same exact time as one of the triggers that is actually trying to play a voice. So it sounds like on the steps where this trigger happens, it's actually triggering both the voice it was on and the next voice. If you listen to that overlap, it's not super obvious here at the highs, but listen. We got 5 kicks there. You're getting like 5 of each with the 4th one slightly overlapped, or with the 5th one slightly overlapped, right? That's kind of interesting. All right, let's unmute some stuff. I don't know what this pattern is, so we'll just see what it does. Now, just to be clear, let's mute the step or the trigger that's advancing things. Let's reset this. Can I reset this back to 0? There we go. This is the actual pattern. This is going to offer like quite a lot of different performance opportunities already as I'm tinkering with this. I don't think I would use it necessarily like I have it patched right now, because it's not super easy to return to home. Because if I stop it when it's not exactly at the top, then that doesn't let me get back to a correct alignment of all these parts. But just for the sake of continuing to kind of mess with this quite a bit, let's keep running with this on and then switch the other options here. See, those are really neat effects that are extremely different from what I've currently got. Like the place they come into the signal chain obviously is different. We're manipulating the gates instead of manipulating the sound, but the impact still feels pretty similar to something like a data bender that is like kind of chopping up the pattern and moving things around. This is already doing a lot of what I hoped it would. I want to no longer patch the advance though. And I want to maybe go offset CV, and let's grab the CV of B. No, let's maybe grab CVA. So that all the way to the right is the original. So you can see that hopefully on the camera there a little bit. Crossfade to the right will be the original pattern. I can bring it over and bring it back. So the placement of this crossfader kind of sucks with my AK so close, I'm noticing. So let me see if I can get some more room. So it kind of really wants a hand to brace the side of the case. So this camera is wiggling a ton. Sorry about that. That's neat. It's another one of those things that like clearly has a lot of potential, but it's going to take a lot of like practice sets to figure out the muscle memory and also like when to use it to not overdo it. Because that's the other thing that I thought about the item. I felt like it would have been really easy to kind of overdo it, and it might impart too much of a characteristic if I'm like constantly dropping in like the bouncing ball break or gate effect on something. It's the same kind of vibe I get personally from like I think it's the Performer from ModBap, the one with the big arcade buttons that just has like tape stop and echo. I think that's just a personal thing, how I don't really enjoy like the SP404 style effects where it just sounds like you could essentially randomly choose one of 6 effects on the same step of every time the pattern loops around and it would sound fine. But it just kind of all sounds the same to me. The I think touch here, or the thing to be careful about here, at least for my use of this, is to not make it too much of a gimmick, but to use it in the right kind of, either structured or purposely chaotic way, which might take quite a bit of tweaking and finagling. I'm going to now, let's like self-patch it. So if I've got the output there, every time a trigger ends up on this 8th channel now, it's going to trigger the envelope on Zadar, which itself will then control the offset of things. So I still need to do something to result in a trigger on that 8th channel. But I guess I could just do that, and we'd at least get something started, right? That's cool. It's kind of neat how, I mean, this might be this is one of the reasons I picked this shape from Zadar at the beginning. It's one of the ones that starts at 0 and ends at 0. And so if I stop triggering the envelope, then eventually it should stop receiving a trigger. The issue is if it's, being shifted around so much, it's going to get all of the other triggers from the other channels still re-triggering it. So it's like as if I give it enough space to finally return back to 0, if I'm just going between kick and this channel, it just fires once. But you can see now it's refiring. It's kind of interesting now. It's kind of just stuck. If I turn it off, though, so it can make it back home. No. Oh, what's going on? That's weird. Okay. All right, I want to patch the rest of this in. I'm going to probably fast forward this part, or at least maybe not talk. This video is already like 20 minutes, if not longer. So here we go. Patch the out of the mono bus into our buffer. I'm going to grab that. Of course, let's maybe make our life a little easier by using the bottom of the mult for red. There. Patch that into left, right. Let's then grab mid, side, mid, side. Take the side out. Whoops, that's not the out. Side out. Mid out. By out, I mean distortion, because why would you not use the distortion out? Of all things. And then you could grab that and bring it back into there. Yeah, I mean, the alternative, let's just, for the sake of argument, remove the Vice Virga by way of unplugging it and just hear that little pattern again and see how repetitive it becomes. So there's clearly, at least to me, in what I'm trying to like, express when I'm playing this, I find there's still some value to like a classic techno, 4 on the floor, bringing things in, bringing things out. Kind of what I was saying at the beginning of this rant. If you use this too much, it kind of destroys itself. Not literally, but like it becomes too much of a gimmick. So what I just did at the end there, I am using the crossfader here as just an attenuator of the envelope from Zadar. So in B position, it's doing nothing. Nothing's making it through to offset. So I'm getting the original pattern. Still triggering. And if I want a little bit of funkiness, I can kind of bring it over. Of course, you don't really hear it as much with just one drum. Maybe we'll do that. Now there's this nice, like, other way of adding a break. Thank you. I know there's been a couple of like A-case videos lately. I've been really enjoying the like ambient noise space with that, taking it outside and just seeing what happens. It's nice and it helps me find, quite a bit of balance, like artistically, I guess, to have this as the as the B case to switch it up to. I'm really enjoying the kind of gate manipulation. You know, just as like a first impression. This is literally the first time I've patched it up. So stay tuned. There will be more B-case tweaks coming up shortly. I've got another couple of things coming and a couple of things going. If it seems like I'm, you know, constantly getting new modules, it's because I'm also constantly selling old modules. The goal here is refinement. And to me, for my process, I kind of have to like try stuff out, find out what I don't know yet, uncover some of those unknown unknowns. I think I've done that a lot more with the A case. It's a lot closer. I'm hard pressed to find any HP in there that I'd be willing to give up. And there's some stuff that I really like over there, like miso cornflakes looks really interesting for the A case. I think there's a lot of cool things that could work well with that case, but it's so close to being like kind of perfected as an instrument for what I want it to do that I don't really see any reason to tweak it right now. B case is still kind of bopping around a little bit. Vortices is cool. I got a comment the other day asking how I like Vortices so far. It's neat. I like the kind of double mix bus. The stereo focus is nice. It feels a little bit second place still to just like the stereo matrix mixer over there in the A case. Part of me wants to have the 4 outs from the LXR in those maybe two stereo pairs in the matrix mixer, and then come out as like a dry out, a 100 grit out, a data bender out, a module that's coming soon out that will gonna go up here-ish, and then have some of those feedback into other rows to have a really nice feedback patch. Because one thing that's missing in this quick patch I just set up is I love the data bender into 100 grit sound. Data bender on its own is nice. I want to be able to do that feedback and that kind of weaving. And it just so happens that AI synthesis stereo matrix mixer is the exact same HP as Vortices plus its expander. It's cheaper too. So that might happen. I might just get a second one of those. Because I also am a fan of buying two of the same module. With the 100 grits, the Vifaco instrument interfaces, the pressure points, it wouldn't be ridiculous of me to get two of those mixers if that's just what I want to do. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.